Okay, welcome everybody to our webinar today. Thanks so much for joining us. Really excited to have a webinar together with Altruist, one of our newest integration partners at Income Lab. In today's advisor tech world, integrations are key, and kind of connecting the parts of your tech stack can really help the efficiency of a practice and even client experience. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So joining us today, we have Ted Zhang from Altruist. He's the group product manager over there. Um, Ted has a long background in project management. He's been very involved with a lot of what Altruist has been doing. And the way we're gonna kind of handle today's webinar is give Ted a chance to kind of tell us all a bit about kind of the Altruist vision and how they work with advisors. Then we'll do a demo also of Income Lab, talk a little bit about retirement income planning, which, as you can see from the title here, that's really what we're we're focused on today. And then we'll take some Q&A. Make sure that that you're dropping your questions in the Q&A section of the webinar, and then you can also upvote those so that we know kind of often we don't have time to handle all questions, so definitely helps if you upvote things. And we will be running a poll at the end of the webinar as well, so please answer that helps us a lot. So with that, welcome Ted, and let's go ahead and dive into Altruist. So I'd love to hear kind of kind of the mission and vision of Altruist and some things about how you work with clients, and then of course dive into a bit of a demo. I think Ted is on mute. Let me see if I can Ashley, are you able to? Oh, there we go. Ted, we are not able to hear you. I don't know if you can hear me. Oh, Ted dropped off. Okay. Well, so as not to delay, we'll just flip things around, and we'll start with the Income Lab demo, and we'll get back to Altruist. So as I said, we're really excited to get. Oh, here's Ted again. Ted, we can hear you now, I believe. No, maybe not. I thought I heard you for a second there. All right. Well, Ted sorts out the audio, we'll go ahead and jump to the Income Lab demo, and then hopefully we'll get all that sorted out before we end here, so that everybody can also see some things about Altruist. Okay. Let's see if I can get this sharing going right. Okay, so Income Lab is retirement income planning and management software, and it was really born from the need for advisors to be able to give better guidance throughout retirement to clients about what retirement's really like, and what kinds of experiences they can really have in retirement, and to help actually guide them to have those experiences. So Income Lab, you will not see anything about sort of success and failure in an Income Lab plan. It's really focused instead on, um, given a household's resources, what they can spend. So you'll see here on the main dashboard, that's kind of the core of what's trying to be conveyed here. Okay, here are your resources, at least in part. So the portfolio balance. Now, this household does have other resources. They have Social Security, they have a pension, and so on. And given all of those resources, they can spend $15,000, a bit more than $15,000 a month. And often advisors tell us that if a client, or maybe a prospect comes into their office, if often sort of a more accumulation oriented software that does focus on things like probability of success will ask, well, how much do you want to spend? And a client will often respond, well, what can I spend? What can I have? What do you want? What can I have? So Income Lab is really focused around that question. And the way that we get to that answer is, given their resources, we help advisors balance the risks of overspending those resources or underspending them. And for clients who actually have financial advisors, they have enough resources to need a financial advisor, that second risk is actually a much bigger deal than we often give it credit for. So by focusing only on probability of success in more accumulation oriented financial software, really, 100% probability of success is actually a 100% chance of underspending. It's a great way to, regret not spending more when you were younger, and leave a lot of money to your heirs, a lot more than you expected to or wanted to. So instead, Income Lab is really built around balancing those risks of overspending and underspending. It's focused on, I think if you asked yourself, what's retirement income planning all about, as an advisor, it's about helping clients live their best possible retirement. Not the retirement of their dreams necessarily, right? But it's the best possible retirement given their resources and given the world they actually live through. So it's about giving them directions, not scores. And that's what you see here. We call this retirement GPS. And you could think of it as turn-by-turn navigation. So right now we're spending 15,000 and change. If our account balance goes up, and this came from about 2.2 to 2.3, they'll be able to spend a bit more. If it goes down from 2.2 to, call it 1.7, they may want to tighten their belt and spend a bit less. Having that clarity of like, here are the guardrails, here's how I will adjust, is a huge piece to bringing kind of peace of mind to clients. Now, given a set of resources, there's actually a range of things you can do with them. You could spend more, you could spend less, but that range is not limitless, right? With this amount, I can't spend $1 million a month. And so this piece helps you have that conversation with a client, or even just explore it yourself as an advisor. Kind of at the bottom, you can see almost these bookends of, a reasonable monthly spending range for this household. Maybe they're the kind of household who, they don't spend that much given their resources, and they really don't like bad news. So maybe we should spend less. Meaning that lower guardrail, that point where they might want to tap the brakes on spending, is farther away. Or maybe they're young, they're active, they're excited to get going in retirement. They don't want to regret spending less in the future. Well, that's fine. Spend a bit more now. Your guardrail will be closer. Obviously, it's just a trade-off. So this is about that balance between overspending and underspending, between, reaching 85 and realizing you could have spent more and regretting it. That's one risk. Or on the other hand, kind of running too hot and having to tap the brakes when you don't want to. So it's just about balance. Another way to look at this is, it's kind of like making investment choices. That is about balancing risk and return, right? So that's the same thing here. Balancing the risk of overspending with the return of getting to live your life. Another way that you can talk about a retirement that is managed this way by a financial advisor is to note that, this is kind of the next turn, right? It's turn-by-turn navigation. But over the long term, you can have multiple adjustments, obviously. Hopefully people are going to live, decades. And so over a longer term, how would managing retirement potentially look for a client? And that's where we go to the retirement stress test. And this is just saying for this particular plan with its particular guardrails, how would it have reacted to the returns and inflation, not a lot of inflation in this case, from during the global financial crisis and thereafter. And what we see here is this particular plan with its particular guardrails would have suggested a pay cut in March of 2009. Probably not surprising to those of us who remember this. The light blue you're seeing here is what they had intended to spend on a inflation adjusted basis. You'll see it's actually going down a little bit over time in an inflation adjusted basis. That's because it's using the retirement smile, which says spend more. Most people spend more when they're younger, and that kind of slows down as people slow down. Often it actually comes back up then toward the end of the plan. In this case, plan hasn't been long enough since 2007 to see that. So you're seeing a $1,200 pay cut in 2009. Now, if you put yourself back there, there's a good chance the clients would have already made some of these adjustments, and certainly saying $1,200, less than 10%, probably would have been seen actually as good news at the time. So having that clarity of being able to share with a client, as their portfolio suffered during that period, and we can show the portfolio and the guardrails here, they would have been wondering, hey, should we be making adjustments? Should we be making adjustments? Finally, yes, they did it, but they would have seen it. They would have seen that portfolio approaching those guardrails. This brings up a key part of Income Lab and our integrations, our relationship with Altruist, which is an Income Lab plan is not just a plan. It's not just something that you can share with a client and say, hey, here's what I think we should do. It's also a way to manage that experience. So you can set a plan to be monitored automatically, which means once a month, we're updating that plan and asking, is this plan calling for any changes? Has it hit a guardrail? Is there an inflation adjustment, right? Even if we don't hit a guardrail, is it time for an inflation adjustment? Is there any other change in the plan? Something like hitting Social Security and needing to adjust the makeup of the income. So all of that you can automate, and having an integration, with Altruist, for example, really helps that kind of practice management aspect work really well. For these clients, then, by the time they hit 2014, they would have actually got a pay raise. And by 2017, they're actually spending more than they had originally planned. Why? Because the software is always trying to help you balance those risks of overspending and underspending. If you hit a pay raise here, these green lines, it's saying, hey, your risk of underspending has gotten out of control. Like you got way too much risk of underspending. If you're not intending to leave lots and lots more money to heirs, it's time to live a little. And what that can do by having that balance as part of your practice is it helps you avoid what is called the regret zone, which is getting past that early period of retirement when hopefully people were healthy and realizing, oh, we could have done more and now it's too late. So that's really what, balancing those risks over time, having guardrails and ongoing advice to clients about what they can spend is all about. The second piece of Income Lab, once you have an income plan, is to ask, okay, where should I take my withdrawals from? Now, some of your income is not withdrawals. It's Social Security, it's pensions, and so on. But usually there is at least for people who have financial advisors, there is a big question of how should I withdraw money from my accounts? And should I consider Roth conversions? Is there something to be gained from tax smart distribution planning? So what we're looking at here is our tax lab, which takes that plan we were just looking at and asks that question. And it basically runs 14 different ways that you can run a tax smart distribution plan and ranks them from a tax perspective. And here it looks like this plan does have something to gain from Roth conversions. The one that looks like it's probably very best over the long term is doing Roth conversions to fill up the 24% federal income tax bracket. The plan itself is actually using 22, and this is really just to show that there's some art and some science to tax planning. And so there's nothing wrong with using, something that is not quote unquote optimal. Doing Roth conversions is really ripping the Band-Aid off on taxes. And so you can see we're kind of front loading taxes. But when we do that, there is a break-even point, meaning we have to live a little while before we're going to be happy that was something we did. In this case, about 20 years. Lots more in this area to look at for, typically more for advisors, or if you work with centers of influence like accountants, where you can really break down what this plan looks like, the size of the Roth conversions, how many years we anticipate doing it, and so on, all the way down to the year by year ledger. The last thing I want to share, and this is another great place where integrations are really useful, is LifeHub, which is Income Lab's way of viewing a plan in a really client-friendly way. So there are two extremely client-friendly things we've already seen. One was the main dashboard, that turn-by-turn navigation. What can I spend? What would make changing that a good idea? What would that change look like? The other is here, where we're seeing the entire plan in one place, income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. And we can look at it for each individual year at any level of detail just by clicking these, or, I can blast the whole thing out. This is a great way to build a plan. You can do that here, adding things, deleting things, to edit a plan, to remind yourself of what's in a plan. A client's coming in and you think, oh, you know what? Oh yeah, they do have a pension. Interesting. And, being able to see the breakdown of the accounts, they have an inherited IRA. You can look at different milestones on the timeline here, right? Like when RMDs start, when Social Security starts. If you have particular expenses or goals, you can put them in here. It's also a great way to show clients how the makeup of their income plan will change over time. So here in 2026, vast majority is portfolio withdrawals. We get a little bit of pension. 27, we get a little bit of Social Security as Jack starts. Mary starts in 28. And by 29, we're fully into Social Security, and we can see how things are changing. Get all the way to the account level, including Roth conversions, going from their sources and to their destinations. Just the clarity that this provides. We hear lots and lots of stories about how this helps advisors really get better clarity into the client situation. Also, the clients to have clarity into their plan and how things really are going to work. If you have integrations, you can always have updated account balances. You can trigger those yourself, or if the plan is set to be updated automatically, then those would have month-end balances there automatically for you. So let's try again, Ted, and see if we're still having technical difficulties, but love to turn it over to you for a little bit about Altruist.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Can hear you great. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Well, I'm glad, it's so funny. When I first got audio back, I was like, man, I'm so glad to hear Justin's voice. I was like, finally, I'm part of this now. So great. So, hi everyone. I'm Ted. I'm one of the product managers here in charge of integrations at Altruist. And today I want to give you a quick overview of the Altruist platform. So for those of you who are not familiar with Altruist, Altruist is an all-in-one custodial platform that combines the capabilities of a traditional custodian, such as account opening and account funding, but also we provide you the software to help you manage your clients and also manage your practice. So the first thing I want to go over is, how do you manage your clients within Altruist? So the first thing I'm going to do is navigate to the client section and select households. So now that I'm in the households page, let's say I want to drill down into the Shivali family. So one cool thing that I'm able to do within Altruist is, not only do I have the performance reporting for this particular client, but I also have my custodian functionality here as well. So I can really easily manage my clients during a meeting. So here, if I want to drill down into holdings performance, I have that available to me. Also, I can look at a client's asset allocation, so I can monitor if my client is within the portfolio allocations I've established for that particular client. But in addition, I can also do certain custodial functionalities here, such as whether it's trading, I can also transfer in funds, create a recurring deposit, but I can also create a move money authorization here as well. So as you can see, managing clients within Altruist is really simple. You can easily go from meetings to trading very seamlessly. Another cool functionality that we have is account opening. So account opening in Altruist is going to be a digital experience. So we have the ability to invite your client electronically to fill out the form, or they can also fill it out in person. Of course, we have those clients, maybe they're a little bit older or still prefer paper forms. We have that capability as well. But for today's demo, I want to walk you through how to invite a client to create their account. So here I'm going to select the Wheat Alley family. One cool thing that we allow you to do during account opening is you can actually select multiple accounts to open at once. So you don't have to queue up multiple forms. You can do it all in one go, and you can open as many accounts as you like for this particular client. To keep things simple today, I'll just do an individual account. So here I'm going to pick my account group. So account group is really just a book of business that I want to open this account under. So then here, I'm prompted to enter the client's contact information. One cool thing that we allow you to do is you can also import from one of your CRM applications that you use. So if you're a Redtail user, you can bring over your contacts from there. Or if you're a Wealthbox user, that's another option for you as well. But today I already have the contact created, so I'm just going to select Allie. So then once I have that selected, all the information is populated. One thing that we do allow you to do is, for example, here, I don't remember Ali's social security number, and that is totally okay. If you're inviting a client to fill this out, you can leave any of these fields blank for your client to fill out. Let me hit next. And then afterwards, we just have a few more questions, and then you can open an account. So as you can see, the account opening process is really easy and straightforward within the Altruist platform. So that is a quick overview of how to manage your clients. So the next part is let's talk about how do you manage the investments piece. So within the portfolio section, this is our model marketplace. So what the model marketplace is a bunch of different pre-built models and portfolios that you can leverage for your clients that are already pre-built by some of the leading asset managers. Now, a lot of these models and portfolios here are going to be low cost or free. So this is a really cost-effective way if you're thinking about you want another party to take on the investment process for your clients. But if you are an advisor that likes to build your own models and portfolios and really want to be heavy on the asset management side, we do allow you to create custom models and portfolios. So all these models and portfolios that you built here are going to leverage our rebalancer technology. So once you set that to a particular client's accounts, we really automate the investment process for you. So as you can see, there are a lot of investment capabilities within Altruist. So you can choose to have a pre-built portfolio or you can build your own. So lastly, I want to cover some of the back office functionality within Altruist. So here I'm going to click on my profile icon and let's talk a little bit about fee billing. So one of the cool things about Altruist is we have a pre-built fee billing module. So here I can go and create my own fee schedule. So if I'm an advisor that charges based on a flat fee or an AUM-based fee, I have the ability to create that schedule, set it to an account, and as each billing period elapses, Altruist will automatically generate those invoices for you to review. But Altruist fee billing is also very flexible. So if you want to use a third-party billing application, we have the ability for you to upload a CSV with the fee billing instruction. So really, you have the ability to use our fee billing module, or you can pick your own. Another back office function I want to point out is our reporting capabilities. So here in the report section, we have a lot of pre-built reports that come with the application out of the box. So if you need to provide certain information to regulators, maybe you're updating a CSV, or if you just want to get additional information about your firm, you can do that through the report section. One of our newest reports that we built is the accounts report. So one of the neat things about the accounts report is that you can modify the columns to your liking. So here I can add in a rep code. Maybe I want to see which accounts have a low cash balance. And then perhaps I also need to see the account opening date because maybe I have a regulator asking for that. I have the ability to also drag and drop different columns so I can sort it into the format that I would like. So that's a quick overview of the report section. And lastly, I want to cover integrations. So within the settings page, I can navigate to integrations. And then on the Altruist platform, we have a lot of integrations with different CRM applications such as Redtail and Wealthbox, but we also have integrations with other portfolio accounting systems such as Orion, Black Diamond, Avizon, Morningstar Office, and several other providers. So as you can see, even though Altruist is an all-in-one platform, with our integrations, we give you the flexibility to really round out your tech stack in the way that you want. And lastly, I want to cover some of the planning integrations that we have. So we have Money Guide, and of course, most importantly, we have an integration with Income Labs. So with that, Justin, I don't know if we want to walk through how to set up the integration on the Income Lab side, or maybe we can proceed to Q&A.
Sure. Let me cover the integration access really quickly here. It's a great idea. So within Income Lab, the main place you would set up your integrations is kind of in your account profile, and then looks like I'm actually in the demo environment here, so some things are some logos aren't coming through, but that's just where you do it. Enter your credentials for Altruist, and then what that will allow you to do, so that creates the the pipes, right? That then things are able to flow through, and then you can either do what we call a household import, where you'll create a household, pull in every account from that household, and get a plan going quickly. You'll then have to return and add things like Social Security and so on if it's not already available through the integration. Or you can do more of a pinpoint integrations where maybe you already have a bunch of accounts built and you just want to say add linked accounts, do a search, find anything, choose your integration. So choose the Altruist integration and then find accounts to add to an existing plan. And then once that's done, you can see here, if I had any integrated accounts, I'd be able to refresh them. Maybe it's been a week or two or a month or two. As I said, if a plan in Income Lab is marked to be automated and monitored, we'll do that for you. We do it once a month at the beginning of the month. But yeah, those are kind of the two places that you'll see that usage. And as I said, it really, although you can do kind of put it in yourself manually, and if you do have a manual account but it's being monitored, we will project how that balance has progressed. But just using index returns, that's unlikely to be exactly accurate. So you tend to have to reconcile those values periodically. Whereas if you have that integration, that's going to save you some time for sure. So let's go to Q&A here. Looks like we've got a whole bunch of questions. So first one, and there are a couple upvotes on it, was asking about the difference between Income Lab and LifeHub. So as somebody noted, LifeHub is part of Income Lab, and it is a way to view a plan and present it to a client. But maybe somebody's been looking at our website. It is possible to get Income Lab on its own if you're kind of looking for a really simple, way to present a plan. You actually have kind of all of the power of Income Lab, but without the guardrails. So you wouldn't be able to do kind of the turn-by-turn navigation piece, or explore all the tax options. But it's still a plan. It's still, you still have all the inputs. And so it is a way that if you're looking for kind of a simple and really kind of engaging visual experience for clients, this helps. This is probably the one place of the app where kind of people who aren't yet at retirement still have some things to see, whereas we really are focused on the retirement income experience everywhere else. Let's see. We have a few questions on assumptions, couple with upvotes. Let me hit this one real quick. Somebody was asking about the uh, places you can see more of what makes up the retirement income plan. So here I'm looking at, somebody even mentioned something called the retirement hatchet or the retirement distribution hatchet. So this purple color here is the portfolio withdrawals in a plan. And you can see how, because they are delaying Social Security, there's a lot more portfolio withdrawals early in a plan. This is a great way, by the way, to show clients who come in asking about the 4% rule, why rules of thumb don't really work for them. Um, this is a case where you can retire now. You'll just have to withdraw a lot more than 4% early on, but that's okay. That's okay because our plan is to then withdraw a lot less later. And as we get to this nice ergonomic handle of the hatchet, we're going to probably withdraw a lot less in the future. So kind of trying to apply basic rules of thumb like 4% rule just doesn't really work in a lot of real client situations. And this is a good way to show that. But somebody was asking about the assumptions. A couple of people were. I think it's a great question, and it relates to a few of these other questions. So in Income Lab, it's up to you how, what kind of assumptions you want to use, whether that's capital market assumptions, inflation assumptions, and so on. And those assumptions will play a big role in determining the answer to that question: what can I spend and when should I adjust? So we actually offer 3 different ways you can use assumptions. You can do historical sequences of returns. You can use a traditional Monte Carlo, or you can do a regime-based Monte Carlo that has near-term and long-term assumptions, and all those will give you slightly different answers to those questions of how much can I spend and when should I change. The question of where are the guardrails coming from? The best way to think about this, all of this, is we're finding a balance between the risk of overspending and underspending. If we were to perfectly balance those, it'd be kind of 50-50, right? But that's not typically where people like to be. They actually kind of like to be a little bit more on the conservative side. They want to edge away from the risk of overspending, and that's what you see here. That's why the distance to the red guardrail is farther than the distance to the green guardrail. We're not perfectly balancing the risks of overspending and the risk of underspending. We're much closer. We have a higher risk of underspending here and a lower risk of overspending, right? So we're kind of balancing it, not perfectly in the middle. You could build a plan that balanced it in the middle. I've never seen someone do that on purpose, but you certainly could. Another way to think about this is it's like a thermostat that has both AC and heat on it, right? So if I get to the green guardrail here, things are too cold. Let's turn on the heat. If I get to the red guardrail, things are too hot. Let's turn on the AC, right? Let's cool things down. That's what it's all about. So it's always those guardrails are set on what we call risk-based guardrails. So it's always saying, at this point, is my risk of overspending too high, and so therefore should I adjust my plan? Or is my risk of underspending too high? And you can set those. We have defaults, of course, but you can set those levels yourself. But that's really what it's all about. And each plan will have its own set of risks. If you have a plan, for example, with a lot of pension income that's not adjusted for inflation, well, you have more inflation risk. If that pension is a single life pension, then you have a lot of mortality risk. If you're depending heavily on your investments, then you have a lot of investment risk. So each plan is unique in that way. And the way that we set the guardrails is still always about, has my risk of underspending or overspending gotten too high? And yeah, as an advisor, you'd have full visibility into what those levels are. So typically, as a default, for example, you'd hit this red guardrail if your risk of overspending is about 75% out of 100. Whereas here, again, because people are very risk averse, typically it's when your risk of underspending gets to 90 or 100%, like you're really, really sure you're underspending. That's when you'd get a pay raise. All right. think I hit some of these. Let's see. Somebody was asking about integrations with Wealthbox or Right Capital. It does look like Altruist has those integrations. Um, we do not yet, although more and more we're adding more and more things where you can potentially kind of bring in data by daisy chaining it, right, through other integration sources, so, whether it's Altruist or Precise FP or any other places. As Ted was mentioning, it's a lot of firms actually play pretty nice with each other, right? Altruist is integrating with portfolio reporting systems, even though also available there. So they're definitely, if you want to reach out to one of our team members, they can kind of help you with an integration strategy that could get that data over in the right way for you. Let's see here. A question for you, Ted. In Altruist, if assets are custodied at Fidelity and then integrated with Altruist, do all the features also then work through Altruist?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So for accounts that are custodied outside of Altruist, such as like a Fidelity or a Schwab, basically Altruist is leveraged as a portfolio reporting system in that case. So a lot of things that you could do, you still could do performance reporting, you could still do fee billing. The things we can't do, obviously, we can't open an account at Fidelity. We wouldn't be able to digitize that, or like we can't do the move money authorizations. Basically, the custodial functionalities would all have to be accounts at Altruist. Also regarding minimums, one of the great things about Altruist is we don't have any minimums. So you're free to always open a single account or as many accounts as you like.
Very cool. Perfect. Let's see here. We got a lot of questions about assumptions. Hopefully I covered a lot of that. Question about whether you can customize, definitely. Somebody did have a question about kind of where Income Lab fits with other planning software, kind of like Ted just answered, kind of how Altruist can fit with other types of software and custodians. And I'd say we have lots of financial advisors who use Income Lab who also have a more accumulation focused or kind of holistic financial planning software in their tech stack, like a Money Guide or Right Capital and eMoney. And so, as I said, really, Income Lab is all about that experience for clients who are at, near, or in retirement. So it's kind of when you want to start talking with clients about like a when let's use the GPS metaphor. Like, when would you actually turn on your GPS and say, like, how long is it going to take me to get where I'm going? Pretty much in the driveway, right? It wouldn't make much sense to do it, long before that and wonder what traffic is like. So that's really where the handover tends to happen with people who use Income Lab alongside other types of planning software in their practice. There are, advisors who are only using Income Lab if that fits their needs. Let's see here. All right. Somebody was asking about whether income would vary month to month with that kind of turn-by-turn navigation piece of Income Lab. The answer is typically no. I mean, far, far from it, actually. I'd more often see it once every year or two. And the reason is, well, really, you kind of see it here. Even the guardrails themselves, um, you know, in between the guardrails is what we call the no change range. So this is just like keep living your life. The reason guardrails are so wide it is really a couple things. One is you don't want to overreact. Two, clients would be annoyed if you were adjusting their income every month, and it would probably not be worth it, right? We don't want to kind of be whipsawed on things. So this is a balance of that desire for clients to know that they're doing the right thing, that they're balancing those risks, and the desire for you to leave them alone and let them live their life. So again, a good example is the retirement stress test, since these are looking at real historical examples of how a plan would have really behaved. And I'll even look at it in nominal terms so that we can see the inflation adjustments as well. Okay, so here we got one in 09, and we got an inflation adjustment in 11, so that's 2 years apart. Then we got a real pay raise in 14, so 3 more years later. So this is a good example of kind of the cadence of adjustments that you might see. Let's see here. Somebody was asking, is Income Lab planning software? Is it just kind of a way to visualize things? Is it a tax um, uh, minimizer or optimizer? Um, it is all of those things. It is definitely planning software. So this piece is that's really, there is no other way to do risk-based guardrails, adjustment-based planning. One of the real downsides of probability of success based systems, if you're going to share that with a client in retirement, is, imagine we're into 2022. Oh, sorry, not tax lab. Retirement stress test. Let's look at 22. So this happened. This is in very recent history, right? We hear a lot of stories about people who had 90% probability of success, and it felt like, wow, I got an A minus. 6 months later, they're at a 60% probability of success. You're scrambling to fix their plan, quote unquote, fix their plan. And the client feels like, what happened? I had a 90. Now I've got a 60. I already did the final exam and I got a 90 on it. And so advisors tell us that's a really uncomfortable situation. Whereas if you set up a plan where they know there are guardrails, it's possible for there to be adjustments, and they know that they could hit a guardrail, and if they hit it, what'll happen? Your conversation is no longer about, this probability of success, this scary thing. It's about, where are we? How are we doing? Are we getting closer to needing to make an adjustment or not? That's really a key part of why Income Lab is different, and it's a key part of why integrations are so great, because this is, you're not doing any work during this other than maybe checking to make sure, see where people are, to prep for a meeting or something like that. All right. Let's see if we have any other questions that we can hit here. Somebody had a question about non-linear spending. We did talk a little bit about the hatchet, but yeah, there definitely are other things you can do in Income Lab if you have particular, itemized spending goals. So I said it's all about, like, what can I spend, and when should I change that? But that's in the context of, given all of my goals, right? Whether that's plan length or legacy goal, right? This plan has, it wants to leave $1 million behind, right? So we're always balancing that goal in there. And then this one has just a couple of listed expense goals. You don't have to list expense goals, but this one, we're paying off a mortgage, right? That's pretty important. And we've got a little term insurance that's listed here. So what we're trying to do is kind of solve for, what else can you spend? And then if you want to itemize those expenses, that's fine. But many people will just kind of leave the other expenses kind of unitemized, like, here's what you have to live on, but we're also going to hit the mortgage payment and the term insurance. So that's sort of the way that Income Lab thinks about things. It doesn't force you to do a full budget, but it allows you to name particular, the important stuff that we do want to make sure we're hitting in the plan. Let's see here. Somebody was asking about alerts. There is, in the dashboard for the households, you'll see whether a household is calling for a change. We call it a needs attention flag, and you get an email as well every month telling you that those are ready. So that's kind of the way to efficiently monitor it. We're not, sharing client information over email with you. It's more of like a reminder to go check it out. All right, we got a question about how clients can input data. I don't know if this is for me or you, Ted. Let's start with you, since I know you actually mentioned that, and I was curious about that as well. What kinds of things can clients do in the client input function?
Are you referring to Altruist?
Yeah,
Like
for Altruist, it
the
looked like
client
it. I
input?
mean, I'm assuming that's setting up an account, right?
Yeah, so setting up account, when you invite your client to the client portal, they're able to populate whatever account information that you would like them to. Also we have integrations with CRM, so if you want to pre-populate that for your client, you're able to do that as well.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And then for Income Lab, it's similar. If you do the household import, we're going to try to find all the information that we can from that integration. Different integrations have different uh, data that's available. There are some that are extremely rich where you can, click a household and basically have the plan done in 2 seconds. More often, you're going to have, you're going to pull in the portfolio and then add things like Social Security, um, and so on. You can give clients access to Income Lab at different levels. One would be just to use an aggregator. If it's a kind of a situation where you're not managing those assets, or you don't yet have a way to get those balances. But you can also give them the ability to enter some data. And so, if you wanted to, you could give them kind of that ability and then turn it off. So you have kind of micro control over when people have access to different things. The way that um, a new household, like if you had just set up a household to begin with, and maybe I'll do it here. So I'll just a new household, if you sent them that ability, this is kind of what it would look like. um so they could set their state of residence, and the only things it's asking for them at first are assets and income. So it's always kind of focused on the resources first. And then you can add other items. You can add liabilities. You can add different savings plans to different kinds of accounts. You can add expenses. You can add insurance. But this is kind of a way to focus the clients on um, the most important stuff first, which tends to be the resources that they're going to be able to bring to bear on the retirement problem. And I think I realized I was not sharing, so you missed all of that amazing stuff I was just showing. But here's what the account looks like. So this is what, if you just set up a household and then invited them to the client portal in Income Lab, this is what they would see in the kind of the main data section. So set up their state. They could start entering assets, bank accounts, real estate, and then they could set up their Social Security, pensions, and things like that. And then over here is where if they want to embellish a plan further, these are optional, but not a bad idea to include those, especially things that'll involve more notable expenses. Things like mortgages are definitely in there. If they're saving money, that's pretty crucial for their retirement as well. And then also you can give clients access, if you wanted to, they'd be able to see Life Hub and so on. That can be a nice kind of, how am I doing? Where's my stuff? Right? It's kind of a mind map of their whole financial situation. All right. Somebody was asking, there's lots and lots of questions here. So somebody's asking if you can turn off Roth conversions in particular years. Yes, you definitely can. So you can micro manage that, turn it off. And often I see exactly the situation you're talking about, where maybe you don't want to do Roth conversions when you're getting an ACA subsidy. You can actually set floors and ceilings as well on Roth conversions. You can say, hey, Roth convert, but leave $500,000 in my IRA. I mean, it's really almost the options are pretty endless. You can exclude certain accounts from Roth conversions. Say, hey, we're not going to convert this account, and so on. All right, I think that covers I believe we fit pretty much all the questions. If I missed one, I definitely apologize. But I wanted to just wrap up by thanking everybody for jumping on. Thank you, Ted and Altruist for being an integration partner. And please let either of our teams know if you want more information, and please answer the questionnaire that you'll see as we wrap up the webinar. Ted, anything to close?
No, that's it. No, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Have a good week, everybody.